Hello again YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. This video is all about charging, and very specifically the cost of charging. There's been a couple of comments on videos about other cars which can do everything that the Tesla can, apart from the front. The obvious advantage that Tesla has over other cars is charging, because you've got access to the Tesla Supercharger network. And I know people will say, well, that costs money though, doesn't it? And there's less superchargers than there are other chargers. And that is true. But the cost of charging on a supercharger is significantly lower, having done the research, than charging across every other network bar one. Most of the time, my Tesla is charged at home, and I'm paying 16.6 pence per kilowatt hour for power, which, based on my current lifetime average over nearly 6,000 miles of 283 watt hours per mile, means that we've got a pence per mile of 4.7 pence. That, for any vehicle, is cheap. Then you look at supercharging. I accept that the cost of supercharging in the UK has just dropped, but I think that's the point of difference. Are the charging networks that I'm going to mention in a moment also going to drop their prices? The price of electricity and the impact on consumer bills has been a huge talking point. It's not really a surprise that supercharging costs were so high. So I have done several long runs in this car. Hopefully you've seen those videos, and I was paying on those trips 67 pence per kilowatt hour for supercharging. Now if you put that into my average, that's 18.9 pence per mile, which is high. That's actually more than it would have cost to run my petrol plug-in hybrid Mitsubishi Outlander. That would do 40 miles per gallon on a long run if I drove it gently, and based on fuel prices of about £1.58 a litre at the time I'm recording this at cheapest, that gives you a pence per mile of 17.9, so about a penny a mile cheaper than supercharging. But there is a difference, because supercharging costs have just dropped in the UK and across Europe, and they've dropped significantly. So before, the cost was 67p outside of the off-peak period, which was quite literally 10 at night until 6 in the morning. Peak hours now are 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. So for 20 hours a day, it's off-peak, and the off-peak cost is 34 pence per kilowatt hour, which is a fantastic 9.6 pence per mile. And just to put that back into context, that is half the running costs just on fuel of the Outlander. That is a whopping saving. So already, by just getting a Tesla and selling my Outlander, I cut the fuel costs of long trips by half. So I've only charged this car on superchargers, with one exception where I plugged it onto an Instavolt charger, which I didn't video. And the reason why I didn't video it is because it was absolutely hammering it down with rain and I was going to get very wet. That charge cost me 75 pence per kilowatt hour, 21.2 pence per mile. So I've had a look, and there are a couple of networks which are cheaper than that. So Grid Service Electric Highway, they are 66 pence per kilowatt hour, which is 18.7 pence per mile. Okay, so that's about the same as it cost for the Outlander. Ionity are 69 pence per kilowatt hour, so that's 19.5 pence per mile. But there are charger networks which are even more expensive. I found 3 that are charging 79 pence per kilowatt hour, which frankly seems like quite a lot. There's quite a few new MFG stations opened up, especially in places like Lancashire, but they're 79 pence a kilowatt hour. Osprey and BP again, if you've got one of those, 79 pence a kilowatt hour. That's 22.4 pence per mile to fuel your car. And that's not the craziest. The daftest one that I could find on ZapMap is Shell's Recharge. And again, this is a oil company greenwashing itself, putting chargers in, and it's certainly charging a premium for people who want to use them. The Shell one is 85 pence per kilowatt hour. That's 24.1 pence per mile. The point is that if you're basing your pricing model for travel electricity, so chargers, rapid chargers on the move, and you're basing it on the price that you pay for fuel at motorway filling pumps, then of course the price is going to be crazy. But here's the reality: who actually puts fuel into their car at motorway pumps? So it's a false pricing model, and all it's doing is making those people who don't have an EV look at the prices and think, that's absolutely crazy, I could run my diesel for less than that. And the reality is that they could, and this is the point. It's a really bad thing to be charging people that kind of money. It's bad for the industry, it's bad for EV uptake, it's bad for the environment. So it really needs to change. The only really cheap public charging network that I know of is ChargePlace Scotland, and here in Banff we have got a rapid and we've got 4 fast chargers. Well, I say rapid, but it's 50 kilowatts rapid in 2022, and I haven't plugged in on any of these because I don't actually need the charge. So if you don't need the charge, why block the charger? There is one other Tesla only charging option, and that is Tesla destination charging. If you can find these at hotels that you're staying in, or in this case an outlet store, and you've got a Tesla, then plug in, because they're free and they're quick.
I think for me, it's just a rather basic question that we've got to go back to. And I did a video talking about EV taxation on one of my Monday Musings, if you've seen that one. Again, there's a link below in the description. But these kind of costs, some of them really seem to be designed to put people off having an EV. Let's make driving an EV more expensive than driving another car. It's an industry that frankly has gone absolutely batty, and I haven't highlighted the fact that every single one of those networks is completely separate to each other, which means you need a different app, or you need a different login. In some cases, you might end up walking around with a load of RFID cards, or you're walking around with a phone that's got 8 or 9 different apps on it. And that, again, is a very simple reason why I say just get a Tesla, because I have done quite a few long trips now, and I really haven't needed to worry about charging. When I first did my long trip in a Tesla, and again, a link to this video is in the description, it was significantly cheaper to be able to drive the Tesla down to London and back than it was the Outlander. And that really needs to be the way forward. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. I want to know what your charging experiences are, which networks you're using, how much that's costing, what the price comparison is versus any other cars that you've got. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you again on the next one.